My name is Sierra Donovan. I'm 37 years old, and last Tuesday I walked into a meeting that was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it was the beginning of the most humiliating moment of my professional life. The morning started like any other. My heels clicked against the marble floors of Horizon Marine Group's headquarters in Boston, my mind still buzzing from the night before. We had just closed the biggest deal in company history, a $1.3 billion contract with the Al Rashid Investment Group for 4 custom mega yachts. I had worked 18 months for that deal, spent weeks in Dubai, flew back and forth from London, finessed cultural nuances, built trust from scratch. And I sealed it me not the men who now sat across from me at the long mahogany conference table. "Have a seat," Sierra said, Trevor Blackstone Horizon's senior VP of sales and walking caricature of arrogance. He gestured to a manila folder already waiting in front of my usual chair. His voice had that slick tone like he already believed he'd won something I didn't know I was playing for. I should have noticed it then. The forced grins, the stifled glances between board members. But I was still riding the high from last night's champagne toast. I had worn my best navy blue power suit. I was ready for praise. Instead, Trevor slid the folder toward me and said flatly, "We've decided to restructure your role. Effective immediately, your salary is being reduced by 50%, and you'll be transitioned into a clerical position." Silence. My ears rang. I blinked once, then again. My mind struggled to compute his words. Just yesterday, I was leading calls with billionaire investors. Today, I was being told to file invoices and schedule coffee runs. Trevor leaned back in his chair, his lips curving into a smirk I'd grown to loathe over the last 5 years. "Let's be honest," he said, folding his hands over his chest. "You were a tool, eye candy to soften clients. The design team and engineers did the real work. The other executives looked away. Some fidgeted with pens. Others stared at their phones like middle schoolers avoiding eye contact during roll call. Not one of them spoke. Not one." I looked at Trevor, then back at the folder. I closed that deal. I negotiated every clause. I brought them to the table. I said, my voice level, though my chest burned. "With your charm," Trevor said with a chuckle, "which we no longer need." That was the moment everything shifted. It wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't even the salary cut. It was the utter erasure of my value. I had been the face of this division, the anchor of client trust, and now I was being dismissed like I'd just been lucky enough to wear the right dress to the right dinner. But what Trevor didn't know, what none of them remembered, was Clause 51A. 5 years ago, when Horizon recruited me from Newport Shipyard, I had just come off a painful public dispute with a former supervisor who tried to take credit for my sales strategies. I swore it would never happen again. So when I joined Horizon and they asked me to build their luxury yacht division from scratch, I did something smart, something they underestimated. Buried deep inside the 57-page employment contract I had negotiated myself between the standard boilerplate and non-compete clauses sat a legal safeguard. A clause I had personally written tied directly to my MBA and background in maritime law. Clause 51A stated any attempt to restructure or reduce the compensation of the employee prior to full commission payout on active client contracts shall immediately void the employee's obligation to those clients and shall authorize the employee to notify said clients of the voided agreement at their discretion. In simpler terms, if they tried to cheat me out of a deal I closed, I could blow the whole thing up. And Trevor had just given me the detonator. I folded the contract slowly, my hands steady my face, unreadable. The boardroom continued their little act of authority, unaware they were standing on a legal minefield. Inside, I felt something flicker to life. Not rage, not sorrow, something colder, more deliberate. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to fight them in that moment, because I already knew how this story would end. "Is there anything you'd like to say?" Trevor asked, smug again. "Oh, plenty," I said, pulling my phone from my blazer pocket and unlocking it with a flick of my thumb. I could feel his irritation rising. "Sierra, this is serious. Are you even listening?" "I'm listening," I said, without looking up, my fingers already moving across the screen. "I'm just taking care of something Urgent. Trevor leaned forward, eyes narrowing. I hit send on the email. It went out to Hassan al-Rashid's legal team, flagging the change in my employment status and formally invoking Clause 51A. Just like that, Horizon Marine Group lost $1.3 billion, and not a soul in that room saw it coming. "We're done here," I said, slipping the folder back toward him. "Excuse me," Trevor sputtered. "No," I said, standing calmly, "you are." I walked out of that conference room like it was just another Tuesday, but behind me I left a slow-burning fuse. I didn't slam the door. I didn't cry. I didn't even look back. Because what Trevor Blackstone and the entire Horizon Marine Board failed to realize was that I wasn't just their top sales executive. I was also the architect of my own escape hatch, and I had just pulled the lever. When I got back to my office overlooking Boston Harbor, the city was bathed in late afternoon sun. Below, yachts bobbed lazily in the marina, their glossy hulls catching golden light. Some of them were mine deals I had brokered, clients I had brought in with years of care. Now all of it was hanging by a single email thread. I sat at my desk and exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. I opened my laptop, scrolled through my files, and pulled up the one document I had reviewed a dozen times over the past few years, my employment contract. Page 48, Section 9C, Clause 51A, Client Obligation Termination Clause. It was real. It was binding. It had been signed by Horizon's legal team, approved by HR, and quietly stored like a sleeping dragon no one expected to wake. Most executives get swept up in title negotiations, stock options, or corner offices, but I had been burned before. I knew better. When Horizon Marine Group came knocking 5 years ago, offering me the chance to build their luxury division from the ground up, I had two conditions: total control of client relationships, legal safeguards if my position was ever threatened. They agreed, because back then I was a rising star and they were desperate. They let me write my own clauses buried under vague legalese and Latin phrases no one bothered to question. They had no idea I had studied maritime law or that I had once helped litigate a case involving international shipping rights before pivoting to yacht sales. They just thought I was talented and polished. They had no clue I was also dangerous. In my first year, I ate rejection for breakfast. I went to every luxury marine expo from Miami to Monaco. I worked 70-hour weeks, smiled through sexism, and sat through dinners where men mistook my silence for compliance. But I listened. I learned. I built. By the end of year 2, I had a Rolodex of ultra-high net worth clients, oil barons, tech moguls, royal family members, people who didn't just buy yachts, they bought fleets, the crown jewel, the Al-Rashid Investment Group. They didn't trust easily, but they trusted me. It started with a single visit to our Boston showroom. Hassan al-Rashid, mid-50s, calm, precise, with a sharp eye for detail and an even sharper instinct for loyalty. Over time, our relationship deepened, not personally, but professionally. He respected that I knew my field, my product, and my limits. I never faked fluency. I earned it. So when he agreed to the $1.3 billion deal for 4 fully custom mega yachts, it wasn't because of Horizon, it was because of me. That's what Trevor never understood. And now the moment I hit send on that email invoking Clause 51A, I knew exactly what was going to happen. The contracts would stall. The money would freeze. The power dynamic would shift. And Trevor, he'd have to answer for it. I didn't wait long. By 6:00 p.m., my phone vibrated. Not a call, a message. From Hassan al-Rashid's legal counsel, confirmation of receipt, requesting clarification on Horizon's standing and representation moving forward. Translated, "What the hell is going on over there?" I poured myself a glass of wine, not to celebrate, not yet. But because I knew what came next was going to require every ounce of composure I had. At 8:37 p.m., the first call came in. Trevor. Ignored. By 10:15, I had 5 voicemails, then 6, then 10. By midnight, I'd received 3 emails from Horizon's legal department, all bearing the same subject line, urgent clause 51A status and mitigation options. I let them stew. I slept soundly. The next morning started with a knock at my door. It was 7:05 a.m. I padded barefoot across the hardwood floor of my Boston apartment, still in a silk robe, coffee just beginning to brew. I looked through the peephole. Trevor. His usual polished presence was gone. His hair was unkempt tie, loosened dark circles under his eyes. He looked like a man who had just realized the only thing holding his empire together was the woman he tried to reduce to a receptionist. I opened the door, but only halfway. "Sierra, please." He started, his voice scratchy. "We need to talk." "I think you already said what you needed to say yesterday," I replied, one hand still on the doorframe. "It was a mistake, a huge one. The board is in chaos. HR is losing it. Legal says if this contract is pulled, we could face bankruptcy. Do you understand that Horizon could collapse?" "Interesting," I said calmly. "How quickly you've become concerned about livelihoods." He paused, eyes darting toward the hallway. "I was wrong. Okay, completely wrong. I was arrogant. I let my ego get in the way, and I said some vile things that I didn't mean. Didn't mean I tilted my head, because it sounded pretty rehearsed at the time." He swallowed. "Please. We'll reinstate your position. Full commission. A public apology if you want. Hell, we'll fire HR if you ask. Just don't let this deal fall through." I stared at him for a long moment. "You can't fix trust, Trevor. You can't undo the fact that I watched a room full of men I worked beside for 5 years pretend I didn't matter the second it suited them." I turned my head slightly as my phone buzzed on the counter behind me. It was a text from Hassan. "Emergency meeting requested Monday 9:00 a.m. Dubai time. Contract status requires immediate clarification." I stepped aside and held out the phone so Trevor could see it. "That's my client," I said, "and he's not yours anymore." By Friday morning, the storm had officially arrived. I woke up to 17 missed calls, 12 from Trevor, 3 from Horizon's legal department, 2 from Gregory Horizon himself, the company's founder, and a man who hadn't spoken to me directly in over 2 years. Each voicemail sounded more desperate than the last. The tone shifted from defensive to pleading to outright terrified. The final one was just Gregory's quiet voice. "Sierra, we need to talk. Please, call me back. This is bigger than just a mistake." I didn't. Instead, I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and methodically reviewed every document related to the Al Rashid deal. Every design sketch, every clause, every email, every promise made. I had archived it all. Backups, timestamps, screenshots, years of meticulous digital housekeeping. Trevor thought he was dealing with a glorified sales rep, but I had been documenting everything from day one because I never believed corporate loyalty was a two-way street. That afternoon, as Boston buzzed outside my apartment windows, I received a message directly from Hassan al-Rashid. "Call me at your earliest convenience. We have much to discuss." I did. He answered on the first ring. "Sierra, my friend," he said, his voice calm but tighter than usual. "I received a troubling email from Horizon's legal department. They claim the contract is now in jeopardy. Is that true?" I closed my eyes for a moment and nodded, though he couldn't see me. "Yes, Hassan, it's true, and I owe you an explanation." So I gave him everything. No spin, no theatrics, just facts. I told him about the meeting, the salary cut, the demotion, the exact words Trevor used to describe me. I even quoted the part about only being valuable for your looks. There was a pause on the other end, then a sharp inhale, and when Hassan finally spoke again, the warmth in his voice had vanished. "He said that to you, after what you accomplished for them, yes. And your own board did nothing, not a word." Another long silence. In our culture, he said, "Finally, we have a saying. The tree that bears the most fruit is the one they throw stones at. You've been feeding ungrateful people, Sierra." My throat tightened. "The yachts are still solid," I said quickly. "The design team, the production process, they're good people. This situation doesn't reflect on their talent. That is not the issue, Hassan said flatly. Yachts can be built by many companies, but people like you, with integrity, vision, and strength, they are rare. And then he said the words that changed everything. I have a proposal. But not for Horizon, for you. I blinked. I'm listening. The Al Rashid Group has been considering launching our own marine consulting division. We've reached a scale that justifies it. We want someone to oversee our acquisitions, manage our growing fleet, and advise on all new builds. That person would report directly to me. You'd have full authority, unlimited budget, a salary 3 times what Horizon paid, equity, bonuses. I sat back, heart pounding. Hassan, are you offering me a job? No, he said. I'm offering you partnership. Director of Marine Assets Al Rashid Group, headquartered in Dubai. Your first responsibility. Choose a new shipbuilder for our 4-yacht fleet, someone other than Horizon. I stared at my reflection in the window, the same skyline I had looked at for 5 years, but now it looked small. Trevor tried to bury me. Instead, he'd handed me the biggest opportunity of my life. Yes, I said, I'm very interested. Monday morning, D-Day. I didn't call Horizon. I didn't respond to their emails. I showed up. I walked into their sleek downtown headquarters in a tailored black pantsuit and heels that echoed like war drums against the lobby marble. The front desk receptionist froze. The security guards near the elevators looked uncertain, but no one stopped me. On the executive floor, the panic was visible before I even stepped into the conference room. Through the glass walls, I saw suits huddled in frantic conversations, laptops open, papers flying, phones ringing nonstop. When I entered the hallway, Gregory Horizon himself came rushing out of reception to meet me. Sierra, thank God you're here. We have a problem. You mean you have a problem, I said, shaking his hand. He gestured toward the conference room. Let's talk. In private. Inside, it was chaos. Trevor stood in front of a whiteboard covered in financial projections, red arrows and giant numbers with circles around them. He stopped mid-sentence when he saw me. Sierra, he started, but Gregory held up a hand. She's here to speak with me. We sat down in a corner office with the blinds drawn. Gregory leaned forward, rubbing his temples. I've reviewed the contract. Clause 51A is valid. Our legal team signed off. Trevor's actions triggered it. And the fallout is catastrophic. I waited. We're prepared to make this right, he said. Effective immediately, Trevor is terminated. You'll be reinstated with a 50% salary increase, full commission back pay, and a formal apology from the board. It was generous. More than I ever expected. But it was too late. I pulled out my phone and opened the draft email I'd been sitting on for 24 hours. Hassan has offered me a new position, I said, showing it to him. I'll be the Director of Marine Assets for the Al Rashid Group. My first project is to oversee the construction of our 4 yachts with a new builder, not Horizon. Gregory read the email, face turning pale. Sierra, please. This company, this deal is our future, the shareholders. You should have thought about that before deciding I was expendable. I stood. This isn't about revenge anymore, I added. It's about respect, and I don't take disrespect lightly. As I walked out, the boardroom fell silent. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't need to. The headlines would speak for me. 3 weeks later, I was standing in an office that made Horizon's boardroom look like a cubicle. Floor-to-ceiling glass overlooked the Persian Gulf. The waters shimmered beneath a cloudless sky. In the distance, construction cranes danced around towers taller than anything in Boston. And across the desk from me, Hassan al-Rashid handed me a thick leather folder stamped with his family crest. The final contracts, he said, signed. You are now officially the Director of Marine Assets for the Al Rashid Group. I didn't speak at first. I just stared at the embossed name on the folder, Sierra Donovan. It looked surreal. Not because I didn't believe I deserved it, but because someone finally did. Thank you, I said, my voice steady, for believing in me. Hassan smiled. You earned this, not just through your work, but through your character. A soft knock interrupted us. His assistant entered with a tray of traditional Arabic coffee. It was a small ritual, but one we had observed since the earliest days of our negotiations. Respect, ceremony, trust, values. Horizon never truly understood. We sat in silence for a moment, sipping from the tiny, ornate cups. Benetti Yachts has confirmed construction on the first of the 4 vessels, Hassan said, placing a document between us. You'll coordinate directly with their Italian team. No intermediaries. 18 months for full delivery. That's the goal. You'll manage all design approvals, contracts, inspections. Complete authority. I nodded slowly. And Horizon? I asked. Desperate. He replied, his smile tightening. Their founder called again yesterday. Gregory, yes. He asked whether Horizon could bid on future Al Rashid projects. I told him respectfully that all procurement decisions now go through you. I couldn't help the small, satisfied laugh that escaped me. What did he say? Nothing. Silence. But I imagine his expression was enlightening. I leaned back in the sleek leather chair, looking out at the Gulf again. The irony was almost too rich to process. Trevor had tried to destroy me with one sentence, one boardroom ambush. Instead, he'd handed me a global empire. And now Horizon couldn't even talk to my client base without going through me. From dismissed to indispensable in 21 days flat. 6 months later, the Monaco Yacht Show. The Monaco Yacht Show was the Oscars of the marine industry. Super yachts gleamed under Mediterranean sun. Helicopters ferried in billionaires. Designers, engineers, and media swarmed every dock. I stood at the bow of a $180 million custom build from Benetti, wearing a cream silk dress, hair swept up phone in one hand, champagne in the other. On my lanyard, Al Rashid Group, Director of Marine Assets. It was the kind of moment I never used to imagine for myself. Not because I didn't think I could get here, but because I was too busy surviving to dream this big. Sierra. I turned at the sound of my name. It was Jennifer Walsh Horizon's new VP of Sales, Trevor's replacement. She looked sleek and polished, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "It's good to see you here," she said. Likewise, I replied, offering a handshake. "How are things at Horizon?" She hesitated. "Rebuilding." The Al Rashid situation hit us hard. She didn't need to explain. Everyone in Monaco knew what happened. Horizon stock had dropped 40% after losing the contract. They'd been forced to lay off 60 employees and cancel their European expansion. "We've implemented new leadership protocols," she said. "HR's been restructured, sensitivity training, a new commission model, everything you should have had in the first place." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. "That's good to hear." She shifted awkwardly. "If you ever consider coming back to U.S. yacht sales, Jennifer?" I said gently, "I'm not coming back." She nodded, once then disappeared into the crowd. I didn't feel smug. I didn't feel angry. I just felt done. This part of my story, the part where I needed anyone's validation, was over. That night, Monaco Harbor. As the sun set, I stood on the upper deck of Hassan's newest acquisition, a 350-foot masterpiece christened the Orenda. The name meant the mystical force present in all people that empowers them to affect the world. It was my idea. The yacht glided silently in the harbor, the city lights dancing on the waves. I sipped chilled wine phone in hand, watching the industry headlines scroll across my screen. Horizon Marine Group battles, ongoing financial woes. After 1.3B deal collapse, former Horizon exec re-emerges as global power player in yacht procurement. Exclusive Al Rashid Group appoints Sierra Donovan as marine director. I clicked the screen off. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about the fact that I had taken the worst moment of my professional life and turned it into something unstoppable. I'd been called decorative. I'd been told I was used for my looks. I'd been cast aside the moment I became inconvenient. But now I was the one they had to call if they wanted to survive. The view from the top was breathtaking, but the climb, that's what made it mine. A month after the Monaco Yacht Show, I got a message from an old colleague at Horizon. Just so you know, the message read they laid off another 40 employees. Word is they're closing the European office. You burned the house down. I mean that in the best way. I stared at the screen for a moment, letting the words settle. I didn't feel vindicated. Not exactly. Horizon's implosion didn't give me joy, it gave me clarity. Because this wasn't about revenge anymore. Not for me. It was about justice. And justice, unlike revenge, leaves room for grace. Still watching a company that once told me I was only valuable for my appearance now scramble to survive in a world I used to dominate, that had a poetic rhythm I couldn't ignore. The ripple effects were bigger than I ever imagined. After news broke that the Al Rashid Group had officially severed ties with Horizon, other clients quietly began pulling away too. Some cited misalignment in values, others just stopped returning calls. The loss of my deal was the headline, but it was the culture that turned the tide. And everyone in the luxury yacht industry knew it. Trevor's name never made it into the articles. Horizon quietly terminated him the Monday after my meeting with the board. The official line was mutual parting over strategic differences. But the whispers painted a much truer picture. I heard through the grapevine that his exit package was shredded after internal documents confirmed his remarks about me were overheard by 2 other executives, both of whom were later asked to resign. HR was gutted, legal was restructured, and Horizon's new PR strategy focused on rebuilding trust and fostering equity. Too little, too late. Meanwhile, my life took off. I was flying to Italy every month to oversee the Benetti builds. I met with materials teams in Viareggio design engineers in Livorno and procurement heads from Norway to Singapore. I wasn't just approving contracts anymore, I was shaping the entire industry conversation. Trade journals started running op-eds quoting me as a leader in ethical procurement and the force behind Al Rashid's global expansion. I was invited to speak on panels. I got interview requests from Forbes Yachting International and a dozen finance podcasts I'd never heard of. But the part that mattered most, the messages from other women I'd met at conferences, women I'd mentored, even women I didn't know who had followed the story online and reached out to say, "You made me realize I don't have to stay quiet. I read about what you did. I renegotiated my contract yesterday. Thank you. Just thank you." That's when it hit me. Trevor thought I was just fighting for a commission, but what I was really doing was taking back every moment I'd swallowed my voice just to be allowed in the room. 2 months after Monaco, a familiar phone call. My assistant knocked gently on my office door in Dubai. Sierra Line 2, Gregory Horizon. I didn't move for a moment. Then I picked up. "Gregory," I said coolly. "Sierra," he said, voice heavy with defeat. "I know you're busy. I'll be brief." "Good. Let's keep it that way. I heard Benetti's building your fleet, and I wanted to ask if Horizon might be considered for future Al Rashid contracts." I almost laughed. "You want Horizon to bid on new projects after what happened?" "We've made changes," he said quickly. "New leadership, new policies. A formal apology to you is already drafted and waiting for board approval. Whatever it takes, Sierra." I walked to the window, watching the Gulf sparkle under the late afternoon sun. "Gregory," I said slowly, "you're calling the woman you tried to erase, asking if she'll let you back into a circle you no longer belong to." Silence. "I'm calling the woman who built that circle," he corrected quietly, "and I'm asking her to give us a second chance. There was a time when that would have shaken me, when hearing my former CEO acknowledge my power would have meant something. But now it only confirmed what I already knew. All marine procurement decisions go through me now," I said, echoing Hassan's words. "So, is that a no?" "It's a never," I said gently. I hung up. And just like that, Horizon's last hope for relevance slipped through their fingers. 3 weeks later, the closure. I was attending a shipyard ribbon cutting in Genoa when my phone buzzed with a headline notification: Horizon Marine Group to restructure after major losses, layoffs expected to exceed 100 employees. The article cited strategic missteps, lost key accounts, and internal leadership controversies. They didn't mention me by name, but they didn't have to. Every person in the industry already knew the real story, that a woman they dismissed had become the gatekeeper to one of the largest yacht portfolios in the world. That night, private dinner in Dubai. Hassan hosted a dinner at his estate for select partners. Only 20 people, catered by a Michelin-starred chef. Private violin quartet. At the end of the meal, he raised a toast. To Sierra, he said, glass in hand, who reminds us that integrity is not weakness and that silence is not the same as obedience. Everyone applauded. I smiled, lifting my own glass, thinking about the girl I was. 5 years ago, too polite, too trusting, too eager to belong. She was gone now. In her place stood a woman who had learned that the best way to win was not to fight for a seat at someone else's table, but to build your own. 6 months had passed since I walked out of Horizon Marine Group with my dignity intact and my future reborn. But one moment from that final meeting still echoed in my mind. You can't fix trust, Trevor, I had said, and you certainly can't fix the legal consequences of violating my contract. It wasn't just a mic drop. It was the truth, one that had followed them into every boardroom since. Now I sat on the sun-drenched terrace of the Al Rashid Group's new marine headquarters in Dubai, sipping jasmine tea and reviewing specs for a custom 420-foot Explorer yacht destined for a Norwegian tech magnate. This one wasn't just big, it was revolutionary. Arctic-hardened hull helipad spa deck, AI-powered navigation, a 300 million floating fortress. I was the one who hand-picked the designer, negotiated the builder, and mapped out every milestone in the project. A year ago, none of this was even imaginable. A year ago, I was sitting in a boardroom being told I was just a pretty face. And now, my name showed up in Yachting Elite's top 10 most influential women in marine innovation. I was listed beside CEOs, naval architects, and billionaires. But the best part, I didn't just earn a title. I earned respect. The night it sank in. It wasn't a headline or a trophy that made it real for me. It was a letter. A handwritten one folded carefully and sent from the U.S. A young woman, an intern who'd once shadowed me at Horizon, had tracked down my Dubai office address and written 6 pages. She told me about how she was passed over for a promotion after doing double the work of her male counterpart, how she was told to smile more in client meetings, how she almost quit until she read about me. She wrote, I didn't just see a woman who stood up for herself. I saw a roadmap. Thank you for not being quiet. I read that last line over and over, and I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I finally understood what had happened. Trevor didn't destroy my career. He revealed it. He pulled off the blindfold. He showed me the ceiling. And then, by underestimating me, he handed me the hammer I needed to smash right through it. Closure people still ask me if I ever spoke to Trevor again. The answer, once. About a year after everything, I ran into him at the Fort Lauderdale International Boat Show. He looked older, not physically, but dimmer. Like something inside him had unraveled and never reassembled quite right. He didn't approach me. He just stood near the back of the room during a panel I was leading on gender equity and innovation in the marine industry. I saw him watching as I took questions from the crowd, and for a split second our eyes met. He gave a slight nod. I didn't return it, not out of pettiness, but because some things don't deserve acknowledgement. Let the silence speak. Legacy today, I mentor a dozen young professionals, half of them women, several from regions where ambition alone isn't enough. I tell them the same thing I wish someone had told me when I started. Never apologize for knowing your worth. Document everything and write your own damn clause. I also rewrote my story, literally. I started a blog, then a podcast, and soon after a book deal landed in my inbox. The clause, How I Turned Betrayal into Billion-Dollar Leverage. The subtitle, Not Revenge, Reinvention. The final word. As I sit here wind whispering through the palms outside my window, I think back to that version of me who sat in the conference room across from Trevor, humiliated, cornered, underestimated. And I wish I could tell her just one thing: you're not at the end. You're at the pivot, and when it turns, you won't just rise, you'll soar. Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't making Horizon pay. It was building something so powerful, so undeniable, so yours, that they'd spend the rest of their careers wishing they hadn't let you go. Have you ever been underestimated by the people you gave everything to? What did you do when they tried to erase your value? Tell me in the comments. Share your story, and if this one hit home, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more true stories of bold betrayals and even bolder comebacks. I'm Sierra Donovan, and this time I wrote the ending.